Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Jax and Gio Show. I am your host, or co-host. I shouldn't take
That's right.
I am your co-host, one of your co-hosts, Gio, and with me is the lovely Jax.
Hello, Gio.
And we're here for our first episode. We've got a lot of fun things to talk about, and I think we just need to jump right into the show.
Absolutely.
So, before we start, you probably know this already. We are Canadians.
Yes, we are.
And
last I checked.
As Canadians, it is part of our culture to get excited about something very special to us, and that is Tim Hortons.
Yes.
And I'm going to start off with some news from Tim Hortons. So their big thing that they basically announced last Thursday, and it's basically slightly been taken into effect before then, but they've basically said that they're trying to eliminate a portion of their menu items and focus solely on improving their coffee and their donuts.
Pretty much anything that isn't a pastry is on the chopping block, I think, more or less. Isn't that right?
Basically, that's what seems to be happening.
Yeah.
And I am interested that of this whole change, I think it's in the right direction. Tim Hortons has been, in my opinion, I mean, I still like them, but they've kind of been going on a bit of a downward slope as far as quality goes. I was interested to find that a day before that they made that announcement, they actually removed two things from their menu, which was the plant-based burgers.
That's right.
And all other plant-based. I believe you can still get the plant-based the plant-based breakfast sandwiches on their menu. But interestingly enough, is that they, alongside, their whole thing was they had burgers. And now, you should know, hopefully, we should know as Canadians, this is common knowledge. Tim Hortons had not, and at least I don't know through their whole history, has not done burgers before.
And that totally came out of left field for me because my favorite food is, I love burgers. Burgers, like, I believe there's even a fandom name for it. We're burger heads, a lot of us. And so I got very, very, very intrigued when Tim Hortons, of all places, announced a burger. And I never got around to trying it. I figured it was awful.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted to try it, and I never got around to trying it. And I'm very disappointed, but at the same time, I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Interesting to note, like, this was actually down sales. So the whole thing was at every Tim Hortons across Canada, maybe in the U.S., because I know Tim Hortons is now an American thing as well.
That's right.
But what happened was that they basically downsized it to Ontario and I think it was British Columbia. I may be wrong with that. I believe it was BC. But it was Ontario and BC, I guess, maybe had the highest sales. So they've kept them there. And then they said, we're only having it available at these restaurants. And I think they should be available still. So even though you think it's going to be awful, you still have the chance to try it. But I think it's available for like maybe a few more weeks, and then they're getting axed.
Okay, that kind of makes sense to me that they're sticking to BC and Ontario for the most part. Like BC because it's BC. There's a high population in BC. And a lot of people are visiting Vancouver and all that jazz, and Ontario because it's Ontario, and a lot of people are visiting, Southern Ontario and Windsor and Toronto and all that. Definitely.
And it's interesting to me because it's like I'm curious to see what they do with this donut menu because recently, as of late, they've been throwing out also, and I know this because we are Canadians and we praise Lord Tim Horton.
That's right.
And they did these special fancy dream donuts.
Those I need to get on as well. But I hear funny things about them.
I hear half and half, and I've only tried one. I've only tried the dulce de leche.
Which one is that?
Which it's kind of like a caramel.
Oh, yes, I know the one.
Yeah, and it's like kind of has like, that was okay, but it was like slightly disappointing because it's like, I don't know. I feel like they need to like do with classic designs, like classic donuts, like the Boston cream, the Canadian maple, the honey cruller, and I think they should bring back the Dutchie. Are you familiar with the Dutchie?
I don't think I am, actually.
The Dutchie, and they brought it back for a very short time, I believe, in 2017, and I've had it that time, and I'm disappointed that they haven't brought it back. It was, I believe, a menu item since their inception, and it's kind of like, think of it like this. It's kind of like a plain donut, you know, the plain honey glazed donuts, but it's shaped as a square, hole, and it has raisins in it. Now, do not let the
No. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people hear raisins and they get turned off immediately. Do not let that scare you.
They had a bad experience reaching for what they thought was a chocolate chip cookie.
Exactly.
And it turned out to be raisins.
Exactly. But it's genuinely such a great flavor, and I remember having it. They brought it back specifically for like a few days around Canada Day. Oh my Lord, I loved it.
It sounds delicious, actually.
It was. I'd love
to try it.
I thought it was fantastic, and I was like, I was so disappointed when they got rid of it because I kept hearing it. Prior to that, I kept hearing it from my uncle and my dad. They always say, "Oh, let's go to Tim Hortons and get a Dutchie." I'm like, "What is that?" So it's almost this bit of mystical pastry.
And you said they had it at the kind of the establishment of the franchise.
I believe so.
Is that right?
So I think
why they got rid of it.
They might bring it back because if they're focusing on donuts, because recently they've had this whole ad campaign about reaching back to the past. And
that's right, with Wayne Gretzky.
Exactly.
That's a fun. I love that. I like that ad.
That's very Canadian.
Of course, of all people, Wayne Gretzky goes to one of the first Tim Hortons, meets the man himself, gets an autograph.
It was fate. It was fate.
It truly was.
I have to say, even though a lot of people hate Tim Hortons, I do really love them. I hope that sounds weird. Just I love you, Tim Horton.
Well, we do.
We do.
I mean, I've heard bad things about the coffee a lot of the time, but it draws the biggest crowd. Honestly, it's certainly more than McDonald's for sure.
Definitely.
Especially in this country and in this province in particular.
I really think that going off of that, I think they're a great chain. I hope to see them, even though they're now technically American. They've got they were bought out by the Burger King over there. I do think that they're trying to win over more people, and I give them credit for that. They could easily just try to pander, which a lot of social media companies do to millennials, but they haven't done that, and that's what I like. That they know their market, they know what they're dealing with, and they're trying to improve, and I like that. So I think I will give an official Jax and Gio Show salute to Tim Hortons.
I will go ahead and join you on that.
I think we will give a salute to Tim Hortons, and you cannot see us, but we are giving.
We are saluting, right, yes. Maybe. Oh yes. There's our salute.
Yes, you can hear it now. We're just moving really fast. But we are hoping... why am I saying we're hoping? I'm sorry, I lost train of... I think they're a great corporation. I hope that they focus... I can't wait to see what they do with their menu. And hopefully they bring back the Dutchie.
Yeah.
We should
I'm dying to try it now.
If we get... if they bring back the Dutchie, the Jax and Gio Show, I will be... we'll get some in here. We'll try to find a way. We know there's no food in the studio, but we will try to get some Dutchies, and we will do a live on-air taste test. So, yeah, that is Tim Hortons' new menu.
All right, Gio. We were trying to find a way to segue into this next bit, and you just suggested, just so everybody listening can know, the suggestion was to do a Philly D style. Let's just jump right into it.
Let's just jump into it.
So I was trying to think of a funny story, as funny as my life could have possibly gotten to this point. This took the cake. It still kind of takes the cake. So just one day, it was Bluesfest, I think 2016, 2017 maybe.
Wow, yeah, that's a while ago. 4 years old.
I think I went to see John Fogerty. I can't remember what year that was. But the show was great, first of all. John Fogerty's amazing. And so after the show, I was with my dad and my outside of school guitar teacher at the time, Scott his name is. And we just needed to find a way back to the car. And so we're wandering outside the festival. And this is John Fogerty was the last act of the night, and so everybody's leaving. And so we're wandering around, and there was construction going on. And I point this out because further off is this construction, and in front of it is this big field. And we're like, all right, well, let's just cut through this big field. And so we're walking through this. There's two guys behind us carrying a bike with them. And before we know it, we reach a brick wall, and we can't go further. So, of course, our first instinct and our first action is to climb it. So we climb this wall, we get to the top, and we just start walking across this thing. I am deathly afraid of heights, mind you.
Oh, man.
And so we get to the end of this wall, and it's just a drop now because we're at this construction site. And so my method of getting down, I have no chance that I am jumping off this thing. You could not pay me to. It's not a very. It's like maybe 6 feet, but I am not doing it.
What was at the bottom? Like, was it like
it was
gravel
just ground.
Or dirt?
It was maybe dirt, a little bit of gravel. It was part of the construction site almost. Right. And so I get to the end of this barrier, and I had to get lower and cling myself to the fence, and then swing my entire bottom half onto the fence and then climb down. And then we got further, and there was more fence that we needed to get over. And so we were kind of boxed in, but we had a way. It was weird. The fence we were in front of was way too high, but right next to it, it was smaller. And to our left was another fence. We climbed this fence to our left, and in front of us was the smaller fence, but I don't know what you'd call the metal pieces on the fence.
Like wire, I guess?
Yeah, I guess.
Was it one of those ones where it's just like one line goes in one direction, the other?
Yeah.
It's like those little kind of diamonds? Okay.
So the ends of those were very far sticking out of the top. This was our only way of getting out, though.
Oh, no.
So we had to climb this fence, and as carefully as the male body can be, we had to place ourselves on this with such ease. Ooh. And luckily, nothing that you could possibly imagine have happened. I got my shorts caught very briefly. Ooh. There's a tiny tear, but nothing too severe.
No battle damage?
Well, my dad's shorts had some battle damage, but that's nothing new for him. And so we finally, and keep in mind, there's still two guys behind us carrying a bike through all of this.
Oh no!
And so we finally get over this fence, and we see the road. We just gotta go through this construction site, and a car starts pulling up. And a couple officers hop out and say, excuse me, gentlemen, you can't be going through here. You got to turn around and go back the way you came. And we said, officer, we fully understand. There is no earthly chance we are going back the way we came. And we had to find an alternate route. Found ourselves right back where we started, and we ended up finding actually a way that was significantly easier and could have gotten us to where we wanted to go very, very, very quickly.
Oh no! So, has this ever? Is this the hopefully first and last time? Such an event has happened.
Oh yes, I've been to Bluesfest a few other times since then, and it has been much easier getting to and from said destination.
That's good.
Without going through that.
That's good. Now, would you remember, and I'm curious, what was the venue? Because you know how sometimes they have like, what was the venue at Blue? Because I know
it's LeBreton Flats.
Oh, okay,
so it's right near the War Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was. I can't remember what construction was going on at the time. I think at that time they might have been prepping for what they were hoping was going to be the arena for the Ottawa Senators. Obviously, that fell through, so all that was pointless. But that's what I believe was the purpose of said construction.
Interesting. What a waste to have that construction site. Better thinking, we're cutting through here. We have to go around. There better be building something amazing, and that's like this failed arena.
Yeah.
I remember. Let's talk about that for a sec. That arena. What was? I don't understand why they would decide to because we already have this huge arena.
It's in the middle of nowhere.
I know.
It's in Canada, but I mean...
That's the only problem with
it's very hard to get. Yes. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating how difficult it is to get there, but it's on a regular day, it's very taxing to get there by bus.
Yeah.
on game days they have the shuttles, which is very convenient. I don't know if those shuttles go to like every possibly convenient spot. I know I've taken it a couple times over the last few years. I haven't been to that many games, but I found them to be very convenient when it's game day. But I've been there on, I think maybe one day when there wasn't a game going on. I was in my other program. I had the chance to go see the stage setup for Carlos Santana when he came here.
Nice.
And it was very cool. I mean, I had a lift to the place, but I had a few friends of mine who had to take the bus. And I just remember seeing on my way out of there, my dad's giving me a lift back. On my way out of there, I remember seeing I think like eight of my classmates huddled around this tiny little one bus stop waiting for, I think there was a 60-something they were waiting for. It was funny to look at, but it was I can only imagine how taxing that bus ride is, and especially considering I wouldn't know how often that would show up either, that particular bus to the Canadian Tire Center.
Yeah, I find it's really weird with bus systems. Getting to a place sometimes can be easy, but then like going in the opposite direction is the hardest thing a human could ever do.
Yeah.
For example, this was probably like, I don't know, this is probably like 2 or 3 months ago. Still, imagine just the weather we have now, but slightly less snow, but still as cold.
All right, that's not so bad.
You have Carlingwood Mall.
Yeah.
That's a nice establishment. It's
yeah, I
pretty
agree.
Nice.
I go there often.
Oh yeah, getting there is not hard. You know, they have like a bus stop that curves right up to the mall itself.
I think at one point they had like 4.
Oh,
there was like one on this. There was like 2 on the side of where the Sears used to be, and I think there might have been 1 or 2 in front of the Loblaws.
Yeah, there is one still in front of the Loblaws.
Yes.
Now getting there, if we're just let's do, and this is where I had to go. I was at Carlingwood, and I had to go to back to the college back here. Now getting there, and I remember I actually got to drive there, but getting there is quite easy. You know, from here or from where I live, you just take a bus to Tunney's Pasture.
I've taken an 87 from here to get to Carlingwood before, I believe.
Oh yeah, 87, and that just gets you. It takes you. I have to take another bus, but I usually have to go from one station to another.
Yes, from your place. Yes,
and then from Baseline, maybe like a 13-minute bus ride to
there.
It's
pretty painless.
Like, it gets you there, and you have to. On the one that I sometimes I think you have to like walk a little bit. There's like a different one that gets you right up there, but it's like it's not that bad. Getting back to Baseline is the problem, and the hardest thing is all those. You know how they have a bus stop that's not at your location, but it's like around the spot of the location, and the bus planner thing just says walk to this stop 5 minutes, but it doesn't tell you what direction to walk, what side on the road it is. And then I remember just waiting around. It's like okay, this bus is coming in 5 minutes, I better get to the stop. I get to the stop, okay, this isn't the right stop.
It's hard to tell which bus is going where almost.
And it says a 5-minute walk turned into a 13-minute walk, and I said okay, there should be another one soon. And it's like, of course I'm on the wrong side. The bus comes. I'm like, oh no, I'm hitting the button. I'm hitting the button on the thing to like, what do you call that?
At the traffic?
Yeah,
at the traffic light.
I'm pressing the crossing button. And then right when it changes to walk, a bus pulls away. Oh. So I'm sitting out there for 20 minutes, and luckily another one came, but it was just. They need to work on places like that, like not a direct bus, but like a bus station, a bus stop that is like right outside, and like at least not on the side of the building it is, at least one on the other side for ones going the opposite direction, just so it's easier for transportation. Because it's like, I've never had to, maybe I should try it and I should feel the oppression of it. I've never had to take a bus to the TD Center or Scotiabank Place, as some have it imprinted in our minds like I do. But I can only imagine how stressful the ride back must be.
I mean, again, they've made it somewhat painless. Again, I don't know how much I can speak on that, because I've always known where I wanted to go. I've always known like what big station I need to be at. I've always been located pretty conveniently close to some bigger stations like Lincoln Fields, and I've been near Fallowfield Station before, and those shuttles make an effort to stop there. I don't know if they make as convenient stops as they've made for me, but again, on those game days, those shuttles have been very reliable in my case. I've made an effort to make sure I'm on the bus at a certain time, and I'm sure they leave at pretty reasonable times. But others who maybe lost track of time and caught the bus as it was pulling away might have a different opinion on that.
Oh yeah, that's a bit of a mood right there. When you get, I had I'll probably end it off. We're nearing the end of our first part here, but I'll try to make this quick. But I remember one of the second times ever riding the LRT. This was a few weeks after that incident that somebody apparently ripped. You remember when somebody apparently pried open the doors with their hands and ran off? This happened, and it got me so scared that event was going to repeat. I was at Rideau Center Station. I was heading home. I just did some Christmas shopping, and the train is about to leave the station. A guy runs up to the door, running to the train to get on. He stops. I guess accidentally, as he's running towards the door, he's halfway through. The door stops and closes in on him. And luckily, the doors opened back up, and he ran back in, and he was stumbling in. I'm like, I didn't even know, because it's like it happened so fast. I just heard sounds like and then I just see this guy stumbling out, and he's like laughing almost, and I'm like, what's happening? And then the door, I'm like, oh God, is that happened? Then the doors closed, and the train started moving.
That happened to me. I think last week. I think I was either going to or from South Keys. And I needed to either just save the door from closing, or I just happened to accidentally have my foot there. Oh. Actually, that was it. I was standing too close to the train, and the doors slightly opened, hit my foot, and then they just stopped opening. And my eyes widened. I was like, "Oh no! Please don't let me be that person." I know how that feels, because it's like, did you ever had that experience when the bus is so filled up? Yes.
And it's like everybody's, and that the worst part is that when you're just standing there, and then the doors are trying to close, and then it hit, and it's like,
maybe you have your backpack on. And it keeps hitting your backpack. They keep opening.
That's the worst part, especially when going home from baseline, because the bus is filled to the brim, and I've got my big backpack on. I've got my laptop bang in one hand, probably have my phone in the other hand. Yeah, it's just I'm all disoriented. Now, as much as I'd love to continue talking about everybody's favorite transit system, I think it's time we take a quick break.
I think so.
And we're going to come back with part 2 of the Jax and Gio Show. We're going to talk about, it's going to be the movie and TV round. We're going to talk about some stuff we saw recently, going to have some laughs, give some reviews. So join us then for part 2.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.